having a penis is just a bit of a bonus. Because
Really handy.
Yeah.
It's very handy.
It's really good for hanging towels on.
Do you do the tea towel exercise? So to help you if you struggle with like ejaculating really quickly, apparently putting a tea towel on your knob and then like just make it
Just
go up
whacking
and
it
down.
with a hammer.
Oh, my vagina hurt.
Yeah, I'm not going to come for 3 days now.
You ain't coming for a while.
This podcast contains topics and language that people may find offensive or triggering and may not be appropriate for younger listeners. We are not medical professionals and any advice should be taken on face value. Please consult your doctor if you have any issues, and please let it be known that all sexual activity should be context appropriate, consent appropriate, age appropriate and species appropriate. Anything else is fair game. Hello everybody.
Hi.
Welcome back to Odin.
Oh, bye, Odin.
The viewers want to see you. Oh, well, he might come back later. Yes, welcome back to the Pleasure Perspective. I'm Dan.
I'm Claire. Hello.
Yes. Therefore, well, guess you don't know because nobody knows.
Nobody knows me.
No. So Claire is a very, very good friend of mine. We've known each other for years.
About 13 years, I'd say.
And then we lived together for a bit as well.
Yep.
Which is cool. And we used to spend many an evening chatting about sex and relationships and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So
Hours and hours talking about it.
yeah. Cool. So today I wanted to talk about feminism and then how it relates to sexual activity, I guess, in the end.
Yep.
But for the viewers, I thought I'd get a definition of exactly what feminism is first, because some people may not know.
Okay.
Oh, well, and there's many different forms of it. So I stole this directly from Wikipedia.
Okay. Nice.
These aren't my own words. Feminism is a range of socio-political movements and ideologies that aim to define and establish the political, economic, personal and social equality of the sexes. Feminism holds the position that societies prioritise the male point of view and that women are treated unjustly in these societies. Efforts to change this include fighting against gender stereotypes and improving educational, professional and interpersonal opportunities and outcomes for women. So, what do you bitches want? No.
Fucking equality.
Yeah. So, and for the viewers and listeners, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to Claire specifically about this is because you're, as well as being a friend of mine, I would consider you to be a strong, independent female who does. So Claire also runs a night for female-only artists.
Yeah, female showcase called Cherry Bomb.
So if you're in the Bournemouth area on the last Tuesday of every month,
come along.
Come along and pop down.
Yeah.
She is also a artist and singer.
Yep. Got a females band as well.
And has an all-female band, funnily enough, with an ex of mine.
Claire, she's great.
Yeah. And you're also a sexually active person.
Yes.
I just thought you'd be a good person to talk to.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a subject that I feel very strongly about. So what I struggle with certain women that I know is some women can be feminists and some women can be like angry feminists. And I know quite a few angry ones. And that's the side of feminism that I don't really enjoy, is when I chat to friends that I know who are very, very passionate about this subject, that they're like, fuck all men.
Men are horrible.
So yeah.
Yeah, and actually
Definitely
there was
angry feminists.
there was a bit in here. It was right at the end of this, actually. Some have argued that feminism often promotes misandry and the elevation of women's interests above men's, and criticise radical feminist positions as harmful to both men and women.
Yeah. I know guys who've been in relationships where they're bullied by women, and it's the other side of the coin. So
yeah. So
because of this.
I got kind of thinking about this today when I was thinking about doing this as a topic. There are obvious differences between men and women. I've got a cock. You have a vagina.
And boobs.
And boobs. Yeah. I guess we should also say that you also do write songs about your vagina.
I literally do. Yeah, I've got one called Rite of Passage where it's about actually getting in between my legs. You can't just get there by just saying hello to me. You've actually got to put in the work and be a very nice person. So it's kind of that, you know, I mean, I've been on a date recently and this guy's like, oh, we're going to go out for dinner and have a load of time. Didn't go out for dinner, went to his place, ate pizza on his bed. And then he's already trying to get his hand under my shirt before we've even started eating the slice of pizza. And I was just like, what is this? I'm like, no, mate, this is not how it works. Like, he was really oblivious. Like, why are you not taking your clothes off and having sex with me right now? And I'm like, no, this is... Yeah, I ran out the door after the third slice and went, what the hell have I done? I made a massive mistake here.
I like the fact that you managed to make 3 slices.
I felt like I said way too long. But yeah. So, you know.
Well, I guess that's one of the reasons why I started the podcast in the first place is because a lot of men are really terrible at this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I understand nerves can get in the way for sure, but it's...
And then, I guess people get drunk to try and get over the nerves and that kind of stuff.
And then it can go horribly wrong.
Yeah. Actually, I want to do a whole episode on that, actually, because there's been many times recently where I've been in situations where I can tell that the woman's trying to get herself and me drunk in order to then have something happen.
Yeah.
And I don't need that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a put off, isn't it? It kind of makes you want to take a few steps back when that happens.
Yeah. Well, it just strikes me as a bit insecure. And as much as most people have insecurities, I don't think it's not very attractive. So actually being secure in yourself when sober is a incredibly attractive thing to me.
Yeah. And you think about this country, we are a nation of big drinkers.
Yeah.
You know, so going out to the pub and having a drink is completely the normal thing to do, isn't it? We all love doing it, but it's also masking quite a lot of problems for people. You know, people use it as a tool to feel confident.
Yeah. Men are sort of often considered the people who need to put in the work into a experience for an evening, should we say?
Okay. Which is quite a lot of pressure, and I think that's unfair. But...
Yeah, and actually, I was chatting to a friend of mine last night who will also be on the show at some point.
Okay.
She'd started talking about masculinity, and you've got sort of toxic masculinity and that kind of stuff. But it got me kind of thinking about if masculinity is the sort of drive and motivation and sort of being brave and making the first move and all that kind of stuff, it can also apply to women.
Most definitely.
And you obviously get sliding scales on both sides of the sexual of both genders that where some women can be very forward and and brave and make the first move and be the person saying, I want to fuck you this evening.
And that's quite intimidating for some men.
Yeah.
Because guys are like, I should be the one doing that. So it's very difficult sometimes when you do, as a woman, take charge and go, oh, can I buy you a drink? And, oh, would you like to go out for dinner? And, you know, kind of taking the lead, if you like. Some guys really like it. But when you get further down the road, I found they eventually don't like it. It brings out their insecurities as a man. And then I found I've had to like step back and not take charge as much because I can see it starting to make him feel insecure. And then I'm like, well, this is... So it's a difficult one because I feel like I end up finding myself having to submit a little bit in order for him to feel confident again.
Yeah. And actually, I think the most
successful... It's a bit crap to do that.
Yeah. I think my most successful sort of encounters have always been where there's been mutual exchange of ideas.
Yeah. There's a balance with all of it, isn't it? It's definitely how it should be.
Yeah. But I do find that I'm often kind of put in a position where it feels like I'm supposed to be the decision maker. And actually, I don't really like that.
Yeah.
So I would consider myself to be a feminist.
I'd totally agree with that, Dan.
And I certainly think, and I know there's certain groups of feminists which say men can't be feminists.
I disagree with that.
I kind of disagree because I think that, well, my actual opinion is that everybody's equal. Absolutely everybody. Whether you're 80-year-old, trans, or a newborn baby, like everyone has equal value in this life.
Yeah. If everyone thought like that, this would be a better world.
Yeah. And
the reality is a lot of people don't think like that.
No. And even people of, sort of different intelligence levels, I still, as far as I'm concerned, still have just as much value. Doesn't matter if you're Einstein or someone who cleans the bins. I think that both of those people are needed in society in order for it to function. And our endocrine systems are pretty much identical. So, someone who is someone who's a cleaner still feels just as much pain or heartache or whatever when they're treated badly or well. So therefore, equality for me isn't actually about gender.
Right. Okay.
It's just about everyone being equal. But on the flip side of that, there are a few, as I said earlier, there's a few differences in that men have higher testosterone, which generally means that we're a bit more brave.
Yeah. And physically stronger. So I've just started working a new job where I work on the stage, and so we're building sets, we're taking them down. And when I first started, there's quite a few things that I didn't know what I was doing, so I had to ask a lot of questions. I'm working around a lot of men, and there's only probably one or two other girls there, and there's no sexual innuendos. There's no oh, you can't do that, let me do it for you. It's and if I can't do something and a guy sees me struggle, he'll let me struggle until I go, I can't pick this up, and he's like, well, let me help, So it's a really refreshing place to be, where there's absolutely no gender issues in the slightest. And it's really, really nice, because I don't usually see that when I work in certain places. So it's kind of opened my eyes a little bit to that,
Yeah, and I guess we're sort of lucky in that we frequent places in our social lives where, all of our, we've got gay, straight, trans, friends within our immediate community. So, and whenever I come out of that and I'm suddenly in a very masculine environment, I'm not intimidated by it. I just don't like it. I see men competing with other men sort of mentally. And I just think they're stupid.
But then you put one girl into that situation and then it changes the dynamics. So I turned up to work late and the guys had already turned up. The conversation was instantly talking about dicks and pussies and blah, blah. I walked in is this how we're going to start our day? This is awful. Make it stop. No. If I wasn't there, that's probably what the whole conversation would have been about most of the time, really. The second I kind of come into it, it just changes the dynamics, and then we're all equal again, almost, So when guys are left to their own devices like that, it does start going into that conversation of, and beating their chests, and.
But then do women do that also? Do you ever find yourself in a situation where you might be in an environment where it's mostly women? And
there's always someone who's trying to be the alpha female. And that instant, I just completely back down when someone gets like that. Because what I find I'm doing is competing to be alpha as well. I'm like, what am I doing? This is a waste of conversation now. So it does happen with females as well, definitely. Alpha, there's one who wants to be the center of attention, talk all the time, doesn't listen to anyone, and you're like, this is not for me at all. So definitely. Hello, Aidan.
Right up.
Oh, he's being all shy. Come on, Aidan.
Come on.
Join the party.
People like you.
Hello.
I think you're the best bit of the show.
Okay. Hi. No. So yeah, it definitely happens when there's an alpha female that tries to take over, and because conversation with females can get very emotional as well. Flirting. So yeah, we're more talking about feelings. Women, we really dive into the emotional side of things. So that's what I find when I'm around females, is that's what we go into. Whereas when I'm around men, it's more facts, things get done, that it's very, if I need to get something done, I know to speak to a male friend about, okay, I've got a problem with this, how do I fix it, you know? Whereas with females, it's more, let's come together and sort our emotional problems out.
So is the problem mostly then that we're not working together enough?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I was thinking about that as well with regards to things like raising children and stuff like that. Because obviously in sort of previous models where it was more... So, I mean, it's an evolution of society, right? So when... the men went out to work and the women stayed at home and looked after the children. It was almost a necessity for that to happen for the benefit of the child. Whereas these days we've got childcare.
Or the man stays at home,
Yeah, we've got benefit systems, which means that, through the system of taxation, we can afford to, bolster people's ability to stay at home and look after children until such time as they then go to school. But I actually think that the feminist movement, and this isn't a negative, has effectively meant that that we don't have those roles anymore, and people can be more independent, which means that people aren't really necessary in relationships. So I think it's probably responsible for the fact that nobody stays together anymore.
People are so much more disposable now.
Yeah.
And I blame social media on that. You go on Tinder or whatever, you can just swipe, no, don't like his hair, don't, you know what I mean? It's so shallow, we're so, and that is to Instagram and Facebook, all of that, people taking selfies constantly, and I've got to look good constantly.
But then, you need to listen to our episode on dating apps to see whether that works or not.
All right.
It doesn't work. Dating apps just don't work.
If you just want to shag, they work.
Doesn't work for men.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. There's nobody on a dating app that I've ever seen that has just gone, I'm up for casual sex. I guess people wouldn't say that.
I don't know. I got a message from a guy once when I was on a dating app on Tinder, and he's like, if you just want a raunchy, like, I'm going to blow your head off night of just fucking like animals, let's do it. And I was like, oh, wow. I'm okay, thanks. I was so intimidated, but I'm like, fair play for doing that, though. That was exactly it. He just told me straight up what he wanted. He's like, I'm going back to Spain, and I'm leaving tomorrow, so no strings attached. And I'm like, if I wasn't up for it, I'd be like, yep, let's go. But at that point, I was like, no, I'm too intimidated by this. But okay, So that was refreshing. I thought that was really refreshing.
Yeah, I can't really imagine that ever working. I wonder if it's ever worked for him.
I don't know.
If that's you, by the way, comment below, because I want to speak to you when you're on the podcast.
All I know is
has it
Spanish.
ever worked?
I have no idea what his name is. I can't remember.
Yeah. Has it ever worked for you?
Yeah.
I think that's...
Because some girls just want to fuck. They just want to have sex and have a good time as well,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and we've done episodes on this, and... and again, I think it's that a feeling of being equal which allows people to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Which is probably one of the reasons why I'm fairly successful. Because I'm not pushy or whatever, and I will say to people, like, actually, by the way, you will, like you have to make the first move because I'm not going to be all weird and creepy. At which point they can make their own decision.
Yeah. That's a really lovely way of doing it, actually. That's, really respectful.
Well, and actually, I would even encourage women to do that as well. Just, if you're interested in someone, you can actually just go, I'm really bad at making the first move, by the way. If this is something in your mind as it is in mine, then feel free to.
Yeah. I think just putting it out there and being that honest, which people are so afraid to do, that just takes away all that anxiety instantly, doesn't it? Because you're like, okay, now we can have a really good time and not have to worry, like,
Yeah, I can either say yes or no after, X amount of time.
And know that I probably won't be rejected because you've just given them the go-ahead, like, I'm keen. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I might use that.
Yeah. Let's get more laid. Let's get more people more laid is the idea of the whole of this, right?
Yeah. Healthily, though.
Yes.
Doing it for a good reason.
Protection. Don't listen to the protection episode because we blatantly rubbish all forms of contraception.
Okay. I think that's highly important. Highly important.
Yeah.
And it's so, as a woman, when it gets to the nitty-gritties and that, like we need to use protection, a lot of guys have said, it's so uncomfortable. I don't like it. I find it suffocating. I'll just pull out. And I'm like, no. And then the magic of the evening's kind of gone now, and we're having a bit of a debate over whether or not we should be using protection.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this shouldn't even be a thing. You should be like, yes, of course. Hang on a minute, I'll get my wallet. And,
Yeah.
So that pressure on women is quite a big one, where men just won't use protection.
Yeah, it is
Which is a shame.
Actually, yeah. Well, I guess we sort of didn't cover that in that episode, so that's probably because it's a really difficult one because I don't remember the last time I used a condom and it didn't break.
Yeah,
and I use them a lot. And then I have to. It's not a size thing. Honestly, it's not. Really honestly, it's not a size thing.
Okay, really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I just find that
I've never had that problem.
But then this whole podcast ends up with me sounding really arrogant.
Yeah.
But I tend to go for quite a long time.
Yeah. Okay.
So and they say you're supposed to change them every 20 minutes or something.
Oh really?
Yeah. So maybe that's the problem.
Yeah.
But that's really but it is really awkward to have, because it breaks and then you have to go and put another one on and then that breaks and you have to put another one on.
It can ruin the flow a little bit.
Yeah.
But you can still have a good time with it and it can still be a giggle, it's just, I think that's quite important, really. As a woman, that pressure that's put on us, and then, in the day, we're the ones who have to go home and have a baby if all, goes horribly wrong. So
Yeah. So I think feminism has produced an enormous amount of good things with regards to sexual freedoms and things like that. And if it didn't exist, I probably wouldn't get laid as much.
Yeah. Good for you, Dan. I'm so happy for you.
Go feminism.
Yeah.
If you like that, then click the bell and subscribe and comment for the algorithms and all that kind of stuff. That's how it works. Yeah.
So, as a woman being confident in the bedroom, this is another thing that can be quite difficult.
Yep.
Some guys absolutely love it.
Yep.
A woman who takes charge on top, having a great time.
Yeah.
It's also can go the other way, where it actually deflates the man's masculinity. And he likes the idea of it. Yes, I want you to get all dressed up in sexy lingerie,
Yeah.
But then when it comes to it, his insecurities get the better of him, and then it can be something that he doesn't want at all. And that can completely ruin it, So,
which I find a bit odd. But again,
people are gentle, aren't they? They just want to love make, but they want to missionary, and girl has to be on bottom, man's on top, and it's like, okay,
But then I would encourage those people to experiment.
I can't even speak to some of my girl mates about masturbation because it just weirds them out.
Oh, really?
They're still, from when they were a child, told that masturbation is wrong. And, it's, which is not, it's the complete opposite. But that's a lot of religion. I think that's got to do with that, to be honest with you. That's made it, it's still in our psyche that it's not right to talk about masturbation and it's not okay to masturbate. When really...
It's fine.
Yeah,
It's great.
Really healthy. It's good for you.
I was recently
trouble.
reading a book by, I'm going to get the author because I'm sort of going to use some of her terminology. It's a really good book. It is called Sex Ed by Ruby Rare.
Okay.
So I can't remember what her background is, but she's written a book on sex education, which is very much in line with this whole podcast, actually. It's very much like people can do whatever they like and, people should be sexually free and this kind of stuff. And she refers to it as it's like self-sex.
Okay, yeah.
Because you're actually just having sex with yourself.
Yeah. And I do like one better than that. As a female, going out on a date and taking yourself on a date, there's something really empowering about that. So you put some sexy lingerie under your clothes, go out for dinner, take a nice book, drink a bottle of red wine, and then go for a walk on the beach or whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And then come back home, get in the bath, stick some candles on, and then have a lovely time with yourself. So literally take yourself on a date. I do that every now and then if I'm feeling a bit blue and I'm like, I need to take myself out. I don't need anyone else to take me out. And I have a great time and it makes me feel absolutely great. So females, go out, do that. Take yourself out on a date. It's a fantastic idea and you'll feel so good for it. Get sexy and dressed up and just, I
totally agree with that. Yeah. And I think men can do that kind of thing too.
Totally. Yeah, definitely. Sexy lingerie as well, if you want,
Yeah.
Put in your favourite.
Well, that's the thing is, it could be like a quick wank before going to work, or you can actually spend time and say, actually, I'm going to spend an hour doing this, and I'm going to watch. I'm going to maybe put on some porn that you like, or just fantasize about things, or and sort of really take your time. Lubricants.
Some lovely music in the background.
Well, and this is the funny thing with condoms, actually, because sometimes using a condom during masturbation can actually, they call it a posh wank, don't they?
Okay,
aids with cleanup and all that kind of stuff.
And maybe lasts a bit longer as well because it's a bit more numb.
Yeah. Well, and it's because it can sort of holds the shaft, so it feels like it's in something. And then there's sex toys that men can use as well. I've never seen one that even remotely appeals to me.
Really? There's some fun ones. I can't remember which one this is called, but it inserts inside of the girl and it vibrates, but you can have like an app so the guy can control it. So I've done it before. We've gone out for dinner. And he's like, get the toy out and go out for dinner. It'll be fun. I'm like, go on then. And it's absolutely brilliant. We're sitting there having dinner. I'm like, ooh, hey. And it just ends up being such a fun evening. By the time you've gotten home, you're good to go. You're like, oh, that's been the best night. And you're just completely horny as hell. And you're having a fantastic night. It's great. So there's some amazing toys out there that can be enjoyable for the man as well.
Yes.
Like that, just having the control of seeing his
you can get remote control cock rings as well. In fact, I think I might have one.
Okay.
Because I bought a bunch of stuff that we showed on a previous episode. Half of it I haven't even used yet. Because sometimes if you just come home randomly with someone, you don't want to be like, oh, and here's my sex toy collection.
Big suitcase.
So which can be intimidating to people.
Yes, definitely. I think those things, now that I've gotten older, I don't bring them out at all very quickly. Like hardly, there's not many men that I've done that with unless I've really trusted them and they're going to be okay with it as well. Because a lot of guys are just like, oh, it's an intimidation thing. And then that's it. They're put off. I'm not seeing them again. And I'm like, so it's almost like you have to play the slow game,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what that thing is. And
If it's a butt plug, for instance, some guys can be like, no fucking way.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
things like that for them, you know.
yeah. But that's it. I think if you brought out something that's bigger than their manhood,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, you're not satisfying me, but
Yeah.
bring me on this massive
Which is such a shame.
fist-sized dildo might get somewhere.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But you can also get dildos that don't look like a dick.
Yeah.
So that might take that away, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
because guys shouldn't have to feel like that, you know? Like, it's, if anything, it's like, this is going to make it even better for both of us.
Yeah.
But for a lot of guys that I've met, for them to get over that, you know, it's hard because it's an insecurity that they're not providing, they're not performing enough, and that's why.
Yeah.
Which is a real shame, because that's not the case at all. You don't have to be large to pleasure a woman.
Oh, absolutely not.
Really
In fact,
does. And like the opposite, if it's huge, I'm like, you're right. No amount of lube is going to sort this out. No, foreplay, that's it, mate.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, which is funny because one of our most watched episodes is actually, does penis size matter?
Okay.
So people do really, really care about it.
Yeah. I bet.
And I've always said that actually, I think the reason why people come back to me is nothing to do with my penis. It's because of what I do with my fingers and how I treat people, and
also
how
your company.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
So it's, yeah, and so having having a penis is just a bit of a bonus. Because
It's really handy. It's very handy.
It's really good for hanging towels on.
Do you do the tea towel exercise? So to help you if you struggle with like ejaculating really quickly, apparently putting a tea towel on your knob and then like just make it go
Smacking it with a hammer.
Oh, my vagina hurt.
Yeah, I'm not going to come for 3 days now.
You ain't coming for a while. But yeah, you do like the exercises.
Yeah.
Apparently that really helps to like
Okay. No, I've
make
never.
you last a bit longer.
No, I've never done anything like that. But then I have quite a lot of sex, and I masturbate a lot. So
Yeah. So it's not something that's a problem for you.
no.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of issues people have are psychological with all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Very true. Very true.
I remember there was a guy, he did a documentary on his micropenis. And it was quite interesting because his girlfriend was just like, I just don't care. But he was obviously cared enough to make an entire documentary about it. And he was really open, and it was really good. And if I can find a link to it, we will try and do that in the description. Remind me about mine. But because it was small, he didn't masturbate.
Right, okay.
So he didn't actually physically like touching it.
Right, okay.
Which meant that also he then didn't shave it or trim it or whatever, or which means it looks smaller.
Right, okay. Yeah.
And and things like jelking and stuff like that in order to improve.
Jelking? What's jelking?
It's basically massaging the penis, getting blood into it.
Oh, right, okay.
So you basically get semi-erect, and then if you effectively sort of force blood into it, you can increase length a little bit. I think probably over the course of decades, I think that probably improves the size of it quite a lot. You probably find that most people who are slightly smaller are the people who have been told that they can't touch it for religious reasons, or people that have just always thought that it's a bad thing to do. And that if you start doing it now, in 20 years' time, you might be 2 inches longer. And because we know that scientifically that stretching works, I've never tried it, and it sounds horrific. Because
It literally just...
Yeah, there's something you put over the end and then kind of tie it up, and then it pulls, and then you kind of tie it around yourself for the day.
Oh my God.
You literally have to leave it there all day. but apparently you can add 2 inches.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's a Derek from More Plates, More Dates also did a YouTube video on that. So I'll see if I can find that as well. Because if you've got a real problem and really do think that your penis is too small, there are things you can do about it. Might do a whole episode on that ourselves.
You could give him like an example. Let's say do it, guys.
Well, look at mine now. Well, it would be interesting as experiment. I don't want a bigger penis. My penis is fine.
No. It's going to be a painful experience, isn't it? So if you don't have a small penis, don't do it. Because God, it's going to hurt. You know what I mean?
Well, you should just.
hurt?
Well, this is the thing: is
Would,
you should just be comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
Going back to the feminist thing, I think is that everyone should just be comfortable with themselves.
Yeah.
And I guess when a lot of men think about feminists, we think of that kind of man-hating, I'm not going to, I'm not going to shave and, whatever. And it's really just not like that at all.
I mean, there is a lot of that out there, that angry feminists, who do intimidate men. And I think that is a bit of a problem, really.
But I think it's probably more thought about that feminists might not want to have sex because they're busy being independent and female, and whereas from personal experience, that's just not the case. I've actually just found that I can get on better with people when we're trying to treat each other equally. Yeah, and I guess going back to the sort of making the first move kind of stuff, it's a weird one because
I used to really enjoy going out for nights out and going, excuse me, can I buy you a drink? I think you're really good looking. And you'd be like, oh, okay. And I used to really enjoy that. It just, it was a really nice way of doing it. I wasn't forceful or anything, it's like what you were saying earlier, So it was just, I loved doing that. I went through a phase of doing that a lot when I was at university. And it was almost like my pickup line, can I buy you a drink? Guys were like, I like you. Yeah, of course you can. Okay.
Yeah. But I would say I've only ever had that probably, I don't know, 10 times in my entire life.
So it's weird. We want this equality, but there's still this element where, I am old school. I do like a guy opening a door for me, if my pulling my chair out. There's something about that I
open
really
doors
like
for
that.
everybody.
Yeah. Certain things that, even though I'm a feminist, I do like some old school gentlemen, which makes it a little bit confusing for men, doesn't it?
Does. Yeah. But then I think that if you apply those rules to everybody, and I think this is probably where I want to end up with this conversation actually, is that everybody should treat everybody equally.
Yeah.
And there shouldn't need to be a sort of one's better than the other.
Hierarchy of some sort.
Yeah. I think, we've obviously had a queen who's our head of whatever for X amounts of decades. We have had female prime ministers now. And she was just as bad as all the other prime ministers. So, and there's CEOs of companies and all this kind of stuff. There's, there is a, if you look at was it Prime Minister of New Zealand? She's doing a great job.
She's bloody fantastic. She is, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think it makes any difference what the gender is, like especially with.
Think about it, we've only been working really, it's 1980s, 70s, actually full-time working for women. So we've still got a way to go, really, to first of all with our confidence and then just, pushing through to, get these jobs and actually get up there, really,
Yeah,
so
I think there is
definitely in the right direction.
There is a bit of a strange one in that though, because of the testosterone and the being brave thing, you get things like the gender pay gap. Now, I at every opportunity I possibly can, will try and go for the highest increase in salary. So when I was back as a permanent employee, It's a long time ago. I haven't been a permanent employee now for 13 years, something like that, 14 years. But when I was, whenever the performance review part of the year came around, and they'd be like, oh, well, you're average. I'd be like, well, hang on a minute. Here's my job description that you pay me for. And here is a list of all the things that I actually do on top of all those things. Now, if you want, I can go back to doing all these things and not do all those things for you, or you can give me an increase. And they would always give me an increase. And that's a good tip for people doing that kind of stuff.
It's having the confidence to do that.
Well, that's the thing, is I think that having, my testosterone levels are naturally quite high anyway. But I think that probably helps in being brave. And I know that a lot of other men wouldn't do that. But I don't know any women that do it at all. And even when I've been in relationships with female partners and I've gone, you're not getting paid enough. You're doing the same job as this guy and he's getting paid more than you.
Yeah.
They've gone, well, that's just gender equality. That's the gender pay gap. It's like, well, but you have to ask for it.
Yeah. We need to fight a little bit harder for that.
Yeah. So I think, well, maybe it's not even a question of fighting harder. It's a question of men acknowledging the fact that that's going to be the case and therefore doing that exercise first.
Yeah.
And I guess that comes back to the relationships and sex thing, because I guess men have to acknowledge the fact that women want sex just as much as men do, but also they might not be as forward because they don't have balls.
Yeah. And it's a society thing as well, isn't it? It's something that we've been told to sit like this and be a good girl and just say yes to everything, like you go back in those days and then you think about how we are now. It's still in our DNA to do that, without even realizing. So there's a part of females who are just fighting that to go into that role of saying, yes, what you need, darling, and I'll get in the kitchen and,
Yeah.
But dinner.
But I think
in us.
But it is probably as a result originally of our endocrine systems. I am man, I go hunting, I come back and I feed the women and they look after my children. Makes it sound like I've got a harem of women there.
In your cave.
Which would be ideal. Yeah.
Even us go out. Right.
But because we aren't like that anymore, we do just go out, work and then feed ourselves. We don't need that sort of social construct anymore of women's
but I think
days
we're
at
still
home.
learning, because there's also for men that emotionally they don't talk about their problems.
No.
Get on with it. That's what men have been taught to do. And I've got a few friends who do men's circles now, and it's fantastic. It's a safe space for men to really talk and support each other, and that's what we're missing. Things like that, where men are able to actually go, I need to have a fucking cry, and I need someone just to tell me it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And for a man to do that is just, heaven forbid a guy cries in public. You know what I mean? And it's just,
I guess
it's such a shame that pressure is there still, and it shouldn't be, but that's still there. And I think that's our fight between men and women, is that women are the ones that can help men emotionally, and men can help women with that confidence of like, go out there and get what you deserve, kind of thing,
But that's the thing, is I sort of struggle with that a little bit, because I'm a problem solver. So if I've got some sort of emotional problem, I will generally be able to fix it through good sleep, diet, exercise. I can recognize in myself how my hormone system is performing, and I will fix it via physical changes.
I mean, definitely working out helps to like relieve like stress, things like that. But talking as well, it's hugely important. Human contact, a hug, like those things are like hugely important for us.
I guess I always try and fix my problems first. I'm not. I
just go straight for people to fix you.
Yeah.
No, I hear what you're saying there.
Well, the other thing is, I don't ever think that people can solve any of my problems.
No.
Like none of them.
That's being an adult, isn't it? It's like, these are my problems and I need to fix them.
Yeah.
You know? And you can ask for help, but it's important to be able to go.
But what is anyone ever going to do?
Don't know. I've called you for things before and you've been a help to me, and I've got friends who've, have helped me out.
I guess I'm probably
hey Dan, if you've got a tool, I don't have a spanner. Have you got a spanner?
Yeah, but that's just practical. That's
I know,
just
it's like a small version of what we're talking about. But
yeah. I guess I'm probably
You're very independent, extremely independent.
Yeah.
So.
Well, but then so are you. This is why we get on. I think.
Yeah, true. But I still think it's important to have emotional, like someone to talk to. Therapists, for me, I'm a massive fan of therapy. So if you have a problem, rather than burdening your friends with your problems, go to a therapist. You can still talk to your friends about it, but don't go crying on everyone's shoulder every 2 seconds, because that's not going to help.
No.
And maybe for you, because of your hormonal system, your endocrine system, you don't get as emotional,
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever seen you cry, Dan. Ever. You don't get emotional.
No, not at all.
No.
I mean,
you're always the same
yeah.
person. Yeah.
Well, this is it. I mean, even this is going to make me sound like a complete psychopath to anyone who's listening. But yeah, I didn't even cry when my mum died.
Well,
but I guess from my perspective, that was.
Did you ever cry? No, really.
No, but I could see it coming.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like she's
shock to the system.
Suddenly gone in a car accident.
Still grief's hard.
And it's suddenly go from having a mother to not having a mother. It was a slow deterioration over a number of years where there was where she didn't and where there's things she could have done to extend her life and be healthier, and she sort of chose not to do that. So but that was her decision. So so that's in my mind that's all fine. If Odin was to die suddenly, I'd be I'd be a total mess. I'm absolutely positive. Yeah. Martin's Martin unfortunately lost his dog a few months ago.
Yeah.
It was fucking horrible. Yeah.
I cried so hard.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
And I would be the same with animals, but humans.
Yeah.
Too many. There's too many of those.
Yeah. So it's just this. I still think. Okay, so I think you're. I think you're one of the weird people who just don't show emotion and get really upset. I mean, also it's a masculine thing. So, but I do know guys who do have, who do get teary-eyed and stuff, but they don't have anyone to go to. It's not considered normal for a man to go. Heaven forbid, go to therapy, because it's like, I don't need therapy. I'm master of my own mind, right? And I'm like,
not really, yeah.
No, there's nothing wrong with that kind of help. So I find that really, really, really important for men to do. And I think if that had happened, that might change the balance with men and women there.
Yeah.
Women are more independent. We're taking charge. We're trying to get that confidence, that bravery to go, I deserve that pay rise, blah, 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 For men, I feel like they need to step up to the plate a little bit and start being more able to speak from their hearts.
Yeah.
I've met so many guys recently who just can't, they can't talk about their emotions, and then it's insecurities, and then it causes all these fights, and, it's unnecessary. So yeah.
Yeah, which is not
healthy.
Yeah. As much as I am not emotional, I can empathise.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can understand when someone's going through a bad time, and I
Yeah.
can go, "Ooh, that's pretty horrible."
Yeah.
And I actually think that empathizing with people is actually a bit neglected in terms of, how people might feel in certain situations. If
You mean dismissing someone's feelings? Is that what you mean? Like not empathizing with somebody enough, like just
yeah, well,
So you mean-
not really understanding how people work.
Yeah.
But then I always think of all of this stuff pretty scientifically. Like, and even when looking at finding a sexual partner, I'm like, right, that girl
can you
is.
smell them?
Well, I mean, you can. That's probably a different episode for a different, different podcast, different episode.
Yeah.
But because I really want to talk about pheromones at some point. But yeah, I can sort of look at someone, analyze how they're sitting, who they're sitting with, whether they're having a nice time or a terrible time or whatever, and go, how might that person want to interact, and also, how are they going to feel about me coming over and imposing?
Yeah.
I don't go over and just interrupt people's space.
Yeah.
Or go, oh, darling,
Yeah.
and then sit down and just ignore the fact that I'm an intimidating 6'1" male, and I've just approached someone who's 5'6" and like,
But I think that ever since COVID, there's definitely an element where we've lost that social etiquette of you speak, I speak. People interrupt each other. Like no one's got any boundaries. I've just noticed it more since after COVID. It's like we've forgotten how to be, polite to each other. That's because everyone's been starved of socializing.
Also, now that everyone works from home,
yeah.
people using like Teams and Zoom and all that kind of stuff in order to communicate with each other means that no one's got any flowing conversation anymore. It's almost all conversations have just become a bit stagnant.
It's so true. I actually feel that myself since COVID, definitely.
Yeah.
So I've lost that ability to,
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons why I like doing this, and also like going out and socializing, which I do every day.
It's like exercise for our brains.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think it's important.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
So I think we should wrap this one up. I think the conclusion of this is basically everyone should treat everybody equally. It's not actually a really feminist thing, or whatever the opposite of feminism would be on the man side of things.
I don't know.
treat them, yeah. And everyone, and you should all be nice to everybody.
Yeah, nobody is different.
Nobody's different or has more value than you. But also acknowledge the fact that you might come from a different perspective. Just tying in the name of the podcast there as well. And therefore might not be, and then therefore need to empathise with how other people feel at the same time.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, definitely.
And then fuck each other.
Yeah, always. My condom.
with protection.
Take that pressure away from us.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
See you later.
Bye.